process. And me, as a human settlement official, when I go on site, there's no livestock. And then I question myself, so those are the issues that we need to deal with and understand that my colleague earlier on when she was doing the presentation is that we need to stop saying my mandate is that I must do agriculture, we are all here to provide or to bring a better life to people. And that is the ultimate objective, that we need to do our job when we process these processes of land administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Integrated development. That's why we have termed that, coined that term. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Facilitator. Yeah, I think we all acknowledge that state land release is a very complex process. But what we need to understand, especially from Tembisile municipal area, a lot of that land that's vacant and that's adjacent to current formal and informal settlements, agricultural land that was set out years ago by the Department of Agriculture in the former Kwandabele. And since 1989, that land was allocated to farmers on long-term lease, or it was actually a short-term lease of 9 years and 11 months. So when the new government took over in '94, there was not a handover between all the former homeland governments to the new government. So our department that was responsible for state land in the former homeland areas was not aware of that arrangement. And with the legislation that was then put in place, the lease agreements expired, but we never renewed it, and we never evicted the people, so to speak, because we didn't know. So in terms of that, they accumulated informal rights to that land. We then, around 2000, realized that this is a situation, and we started issuing lease agreements to those farmers. So now the situation is, especially in Tembisile, where human settlements are applying for 10-year upgrading. You sit with a township that's situated on a portion of land, but it's not occupying the whole registered portion, as it appears on the HD diagram. So what they do is they apply for that whole portion, which is then a mixture of vacant land as well as settled land. And also there's a small portion of it where you have a homestead with about 1 hectare or 2 hectares around it, which that family is are using for agricultural and sustainable purposes. Now the question becomes immediately, how do you deal with that from a human settlement plan? Because our responsibility is to take care of the rights of those people. So now when they apply to the department, they apply for that whole portion of land, and then immediately you sit with this mixed application of greenfields as well as 10-year upgrading. And that poses a problem. So we've advised previously to say, go back, survey that piece of land where the settlement is. And then one can look into an option of, like we said previously, release the land on a basis of just a general plan, which will then cut the bureaucracy of going through the whole disposal process. Or if the people, obviously the occupants, if they want full title, then let's do it like that. But you need to do that distinction, because now we need to protect the rights of the other people that's there. And currently we're sitting with many cases. There's actually a couple of court cases where the department has been taken to court, where we settled land claims on these land that's been leased to those farmers. They say they've been there for long, and now the issue of the informal land rights versus rights from claimants poses a problem. So yeah, we just need to take that into consideration. Thanks.
Okay. I've got my last panelist on this matter. We need to close.
The matter of state release, it's really frustrating.
The matter of what?
State land release.
Oh, okay, yes.
More especially in Tembisile.
Yes.
We had a meeting even yesterday.
Yes.
And a month before.
Yeah.
I think the turnaround time that colleagues will be saying, it will assist.
Yes.
Remember now we spoke 94 and 2000. And whatever has been asked is been provided
Yes.
to the colleagues to be saying this is what we looked at, because we're talking about the whole application was talking about the whole area. That was the first one. The second one is it's so frustrating. There's a 1 in 100. There's a flatline delineation that is done, and the objection that come from the rural is that the whole area, there's an objection in the whole area, whereas there's few stands that have been affected along the flatline delineation. So they rejected the whole area. So it became frustration because now we had to give all the flatline delineation report to be saying, how come you say you reject application for all the area when that's the affected area? It's only in the buffer zone of the flat area. So, but I think with the colleagues that are here, we'll take it outside here so that we realize what state release in Temisilean, because it's so frustrating even to the municipality.
Okay. I like what you have just, the last part of what you said, that I think you are all here and you are all the practitioners. I think both the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform and the municipality, you need to really sit on the table. You see, there are some things that we can, there are some things that we can really resolve through really sitting on the table and sorting this out, because these are really, someone said in this question is bureaucratic, red tape. This is one classic example of that, and I believe we, as practitioners, as municipalities, and as the Department of Agriculture and Land Reform, could be able to resolve these things for the benefit of our communities. Because I don't have much time, let me thank you, the panelists. I haven't even been able to summarize what we have discussed, but I think the audience have had some indication of what sort of challenges we have in drafting or in improving a policy for human settlement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Maila and the team. We'll call the last facilitator, Mr. Zano Olo, Leonard Futwa from Salga. And then the panel members, it will be Rantsesa Benjamin, Tsepo Mutaung, Mivuyo Balintulo, Judy Nkosi, Brian Mutakani. And then I also have Obaselo. Yes, you can come forward. Because the court, you call them what? The courtless, they are actually failing us. Can't we just... There's one that is working. Okay. Can you assist? Yeah, the topic they'll be covering here is on bulk infrastructure and then finance.
Yeah. Okay, can I just put it here so that I don't have to? It's over to me. Thank you very much. Can I first just establish if my audio is working okay? Thank you. Can I perhaps just test your audios by quickly asking that you greet and introduce your name, just your name. This is a way of just testing your audio. Let's start next to my right.
Hello, and my name is Tepo. It's loud.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Mevoya.
Hi, my name is Judy.
Good afternoon, my name is Brian.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Ransetsa here.
Thank you very much. Can I request that we just put them off when we are not speaking, just to improve the audio? Good afternoon. My name is Zanopolo Futwa. I am from the South African Local Government Institution Association, SALGA. I will not spend a lot of time on the protocols if I'm allowed to just indicate that I align myself with the protocols that were raised earlier in the morning. The topic that we're going to deal with is bulk infrastructure and housing finance. I have with me a set of panel which includes people that work inside government, in a municipality. We've got partners that come from non-state entities, such as, for example, players in the market, such as the commercial banks, joining us to help us in navigating this important topic. This is a very important topic. Perhaps in a short space, so that at least we have context, how we are going to structure our conversation. I will have a set of questions for each individual, so that at least we've got some structure. It will enable us to be able to optimize on the time that we have. Secondly, I will just quickly, in about 2 minutes, just give a high-level context, so that there is a contextual background to the conversations that we are having. It's important that as we undertake this conversation, we locate ourselves. We are in a platform for this conversation that's arranged by a municipality to assist itself in navigating its functions relating to land matters, as well as housing and related planning issues that would then involve human settlements. We do this with the understanding of the constitutional imperative on all of us as we go through this conversation. And I'm not going to read the Constitution, don't worry, except to highlight the followings, because it will be important to locate it at the back of the questions that I'm going to ask. One, in this country, housing is a guaranteed right under Section 26. Secondly, housing is a function that is a very critical and pivot contributor to the economy. It is a function that enables us to be able to make meaningful inputs in reorientating our economic recovery interventions. And we do so knowing that we are in a context in time where we have gone through a long period of multiple recessions, which have been worsened by the pandemic of the last 2 years. And as we go through these conversations that are going to shape the municipality's planning, it is important to put that context in the background, because it is a context that has made us to want to look at alternative ways of financing, exploring funding models to enable us to do the functions that we have set ourselves in the Constitution and in the laws that impact on municipalities, facilitating partnerships. That's why we have players from inside and outside, and we do recognize the role of all of us. So perhaps just take this into context as I'm going to set raise a set of questions for yourselves. In South Africa, the South African property market has these interesting statistics to just take note of. The value of this as a market is 5.6 trillion internationally, about 156 billion in this country. So it is something that should be of interest to yourself as a private sector and ourselves as state operators. So there's a win-win if we work this out. Only as recent as the last pronouncement of the outcomes of second quarter of 2021, 153 billion was the total that we recorded on purchases for housing in this country. So that's not a small fry. Today we have just about 6.7 million records on property registered in deeds office. And of these, the state has made a significant contribution through subsidized state housing. And that's what I am going to ask us to focus on quickly. And in regards to this, perhaps if we can start with you, Nkangala. You come from the department. And I must also state that it is important to also understand that housing as a function, the Constitution also envisaging a set of different functions for the different spheres. So housing as a function is a competence of the provincial and the national sphere. Municipalities undertake that through authorization in the form of either the housing accreditation or other means. So perhaps with that, we do understand Nkangala, that we have a challenge with the availability and access to suitable funding for human settlements, and particularly bulk infrastructure. In July of this year, the Minister of Finance, your principal, delivered a vote number 33 in Parliament. And in that vote, he asked us to give her a space to be able to undertake a range of things that he was planning to introduce. One of them is around cleaning up the area of work that you are deployed in, funding of infrastructure that is related to human settlements. What we've been doing, we've been planning, and when we plan, because we plan in silos, we have created a situation where we would have very good intentions in our plans, And these intentions get derailed because of the combinations of inputs that are not put together. For example, bulk infrastructure funding related to human settlements. What has been your, and this is the question that I would like you to reflect on, what has been your experiences in facilitating proper funding and planning engineering of housing development and integrated human settlements in the province? Then also, if you could share with us, what are some of the lessons that you've observed in that process, and what could be possible ideas that can be explored by the Nkangala district municipalities, which are going to rely on the category C municipalities for support, which is Nkangala, in accessing funding for their housing programs? Thank you so much. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you. Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'm the engineer, professional engineer by profession. I'll start from zero. When town planners were here, they were talking SDF. And in their SDF is Vision 2040. In that SDF is different land use. On a different land use, you know how many people are envisaging to be that different land use. And the same different land use, there's a need for water supply in terms of the bulk. There's a need for sewer in terms of supply infrastructure. So the issue of SDF should be looked at. Because what is happening now, hence we've got the problem in terms of funding the bulk in municipality. Fortunately, we've got the DDM that says, let's fund together. DWS got their own plans, implementing municipality and us as human settlement. Fortunately, where I'm working in a mining town, which is Steve Chete and municipality. There's a funder which is so invisible and it's their responsibility. We had a district strat plan and chairperson used to be Mr. Ndiniza. After DMRE has presented, they were hammered. The reason being, within their SLP, they are taking municipality for granted. It's their responsibility, it's a social labor component. It's their responsibility. They are not making us as municipality, as custodian, a favor. We said to them, review your SLP and let the input be what we want as a district. Assist us in funding the bulk so that we realize what our SDF is saying. Through MEC, we are engaging with national. We are saying to national, get all the mines around Steve Nkangala. We are having a meeting with them, including Tabachu, fortunately. Assist us on this park. Fortunately for mining town, we are able, there's about ring fence money for the mining town. But what about some other areas like Hert and Entlanzin where there's no mining and we only got 2%? That is my experience in that. To be saying mines are sisters. Their application during that strat plan, there were about 3,000 odd plus license of mining rights. Can you imagine what can it do to us as we need bulk? That is one point that I said, no, we need to look at it. Of late, there's a review of the 2% to take it to 30%. But there, one of our comments that we did is that they are saying to municipality they are going to fund upgrading and rehabilitation. I said no. Municipality are not maintaining their plan that we capitalize. If we can go back to the municipality, whatever we are doing, we are putting back now. It's what has been demolished because of vandalized, because of non-maintenance. So we are going back. I said in my comments, 30% is available for capitalization. And then I may be politically incorrect or correct. We need to be advising the municipality. We should not build Rolls Royce for the municipality because they cannot maintain it. That's the challenge that we have. Let's look at the whole life cycle of the project. It's nice to have a big project in the areas that we want to do. But in the long term, let's look at the collection rate. Most of our collection rate is less than 30%. How are we going to maintain our infrastructure with that collection rate? How are we going to maintain the Rolls Royce? I'm not saying let's do less for the municipality, but let's concentrate on the basic. Let's build a test, look at our collection rate to be saying, are we able to maintain it? I happen to be responsible for even the top structures. We are servicing the sites. On servicing the sites, when lead bank comes and when the flips comes, part of the flips is that we need a proper stormwater and a proper surfacing. It's not there. So it's not now that we can realize the flips. So municipality, please top up on our servicing so that we can realize the flips. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's use what is in our hands, improve planning, and I think it then links up to the point that was made in the previous panel around the importance of utilizing the instruments that's there, such as, for example, Spluma, to facilitate those and then to also improve planning in the municipality, and also the other point that was made about incremental approach to developing these infrastructures. Can I perhaps pick up on the last point and ask the bank, FNB, one of the things that has become apparent is that the resources we have are not sufficient in the state to do all that we need to do to deliver the constitutional promise. So we need all of society approach to dealing with this. And in relation to partnerships, what opportunities exist within your institution to propel effective partnerships in housing and property development? And secondly, what are some of the lessons that you think should be considered by the state, particularly municipalities, to enable better collaboration with private sector in the mobilization of resources to fund these mandates? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, to enable to answer your question, right? So, for the past couple of years, the private sector or the banking sector has worked with the different government institutions to try facilitate the delivery of homes or people into homes, let me say it that way. Whether it's us facilitating FLISP on behalf of a client when we score the client up front when he's buying a property, or packaging the end user development side when that developer packages they did, the end user development, how we facilitate the relationship with the NHFC to ensure that they also able to facilitate the FLISP funds and whatever grant or subsidy that that client has, right? So we normally partner with the private sector in regards to the developer side, because they actually build the units and do the delivery there. And we try partner with government on a planning side so that we can all meet delivery goals at the same time, right? And see how we can work hand in hand with some of those relationships. So from the private sector side, that is how we are trying to work around delivery of homes and reaching the targets of how many people we're getting to homes by a certain time, by leveraging on what we can in the private sector. And as the one lady mentioned earlier with the presentation, the private sector moves faster than the public sector, but also the private sector also moves faster than the bank itself. The bank is also a big ship, so it's also slow to turn. So working with the private sector has given us a lot of learnings and insights on the fact that the market will move whether you're sitting or not. And people want to be in houses, and that driving us makes us react. And I think that's what must change, in the fact that everything has been reactive, and we need to start looking at the proactive side. And especially, as mentioned, it's a mining town. Mining towns have a lot of movement. There's a lot of migration and semi-migration. So we need to plan around these situations and make sure that we preempt those housing needs before they're there. But in that regard, the planning stages, as was mentioned, it's about 4 to 5 years to plan these things. So if the right parties are brought in at that planning stage, then implementation, we can also work hand in hand. And that's normally the lessons, is that the private sector gets called after the approvals are done. And sometimes the private sector can assist in certain aspects while approvals are in place. Some things can move concurrently.
No. Thank you very much for that. So the private sector must be involved at the beginning of the value chain to add more value in the processes.
Yes, and provide different insights.
Okay, thank you so much. I think what is coming, which is quite interesting, private sector is faster. Okay, that's very interesting. That's a very nice allegation. However, the truth is, we've also seen the private sector moving at very slow pace, particularly when the fruits are not the best of the harvest. And in relation to this, if I may then draw in the other private sector partner for us, Nedbank, let's take this a little bit further. Look at the gap market. Cherry picking of the fruits. We have a big challenge. Part of the challenges that we are facing as a country right now around achieving these outcomes that we've set ourselves out in the NDP, in the Constitution, is the inability to provide attractive value offerings that enable the different partners to be attracted, to play a role. And the unfortunate thing is, as a state, we then have a responsibility to ensure that all are able to enjoy the dividends of our democracy, same, whether they are rich, poor. And unfortunately, in the manner in which we've tried to package mechanisms to support those who cannot be able to help themselves, we have left out a category of players. Some call them the middle market, the gap. And it is a number of people that earn between 3,500 and 22,000. Thank you to the minister for increasing this threshold from lesser to this amount from this year moving forward. However, we still see that by the numbers in the economic reports of the last 2 quarters, including the one that informs the Reserve Bank, active take or intake by private partners onto this market has not picked up. So inside your institution, what are some of the opportunities that are dedicated at facilitating ways to reduce the barriers to entry for this market to access support through bonds, mortgages in your institution, which can also work through partnerships similar to what the city of Joburg had presented to us earlier on, to enable the bringing in of everybody into this benefit. Over to you. And what are some, sorry, the last one is, what are some of the alternative bond housing finance programs that you have explored in your institution, if you have, or the ideas that you have around that, particularly that could assist us in dealing with the gap market?
Okay, thanks for that question. I think maybe just to create context in terms of what are the barriers that we see as banks, for people accessing housing is one of the big ones is the issue of affordability. As we all know, we've spoken about this so many times. The unfortunate of everything that happens, the delays, the availability of land, the cost of the land. At the end of the day, it gets passed on to the end user. And my colleague and I were actually saying earlier on, even the most affordable property today is not so affordable anymore. And it's because of the cost of developments, of developing a property that is the case. The issue of creditworthiness becomes also quite a huge barrier, particularly post the pandemic, as you said yourself. And approximately what we find, about 40% of home seekers have got an impaired credit record. So the people that we're building for today, the projects that we're busy with, 40% of, there's an unfortunately a large population of that 40% is in the low income earners. They are credit impaired and will not qualify for a home loan. There's an issue around an inadequate security in the property that is being financed. You spoke about this. When we go and value the property, we don't find that there's adequate security because the infrastructure is not right. You spoke about this. So that also becomes a barrier at the end of the day for the consumer. And then there's the obvious one, which is the upfront costs, such as the transfer costs, the bond registration costs, which is also a huge barrier into people acquiring property. And I really think as banks, we've done a lot, and my colleague can back me here. We've done a lot to just respond to these barriers because we understand, and two, because we are just as committed to housing the nation as government is. We are continuously looking at enhancing our credit policies, and there's only so much that we can do because we are also governed by the NCA. So we do continuously review our credit policies and loosen up our credit appetite, our risk appetite. Especially I can see in the last 18 months, our approval ratios have really, really gone up. We're not negligent. But we try and do accommodate. I mean, simple things as we are looking at informal income when we are assessing a client for a home loan credit. I had an example of a lady the other day. She runs a side hustle. She sells chicken wings on the side, over and above her full-time job. And we could use that additional income to boost her affordability for her to qualify for a home loan. So that's one of the things that we do. FNB is quite good at that. I'm not sure about the other banks. So then, and there's also things like the customer education programs that we run through our township economy initiative, where we go into the townships and we empower people to be money wise, to be able to use money and to prepare them for when they do want to purchase, and that their credit status is in good standing. So that's, and we actually, we bring down that 40%. We've seen where we have taken a consumer through an education program. Their chances of approval increase by up to 93% when we have taken them through the program. So when put in an application through the bank, 93% approval ratio. So
fine. I
we've
just
tested
need
that
10
concept,
minutes
and
to
I know
wrap
we
up.
had a little disagreement earlier, but we've tested it and it works, you know. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We also, continuously look at crafting different CVPs, that's customer value propositions that really enable people to access home ownership. We around August, we launched our first-time home buyer CVP, where applicants can get up to 115% of the purchase price, and that's to use the 15% for the costs, which is closing the barrier. FNB has been doing that for quite some time. I saw ABSA the other day also launched a first-time home buyer CVP. So there really is commitment and response from the banks to meet this gap. We also really do partner with human settlements at a provincial level, at a national level. We currently work very closely with NHFC in the facilitation of FLISP, as my colleague has mentioned earlier as well. So where we actually apply for FLISP on behalf of the client, so that they don't have to run around and chase and phone. We do the phoning. That's just our commitment as banks, enabling home ownership.
Thank you very much. I think that is welcome improvement, but take this home in your Monday meeting with your colleagues. Just put it at the back of your mind. A South African out there today who earns 10,000, wanting to buy a house of 500,000, is asked to put upfront a bond transfer cost of 28,500. And that person will end up not buying. When that person ends up not buying, that person becomes a different problem to the state. So there is correlation between the different roles in the value chain taken and those that are missing takers. So it's important that we find ways in our exploration of partnership models to also look at non-classical ways of solutioning problems. Thanks very much. Can we ask Judy? You have been here. My apology, ma'am, for not being recognized. I'm with you in that bus. But quickly, because at least you had an opportunity to come here, I just want to pick up on what you had shared with us earlier. We've had many conversations outside of this platform, and I think you engage municipalities a lot. You know the challenges around. One of the major challenges that are a stumbling block is also the problem in the mirror. So when we go to the mirror, there are certain things about us that we need to improve. One of those is capacity and ensuring that we have properly skilled professionals with competencies to be able to undertake the everyday things that needs to be undertaken to see a properly integrated settlement and the reversal of the apartheid special form that we inherited. So in relation to that, you spoke about some of the offerings that MISA had. Can you maybe just share a little bit on particularly around the collaboration and capacity building in relation to, you touched on project preparation, in relation to sourcing of funding for infrastructure and maintenance. And secondly, perhaps the alternative funding models. There is a tendency to look at the cow that no longer gives milk. Grants. If the economy is not performing, there's not much in the deck, so there's going to be little money anyway. So we need different alternative sources. So what are the models? A very specific one, which is of interest to municipalities in the room. Can MISA allocate a technical resource to come to a municipality and sit with a municipality to work out or conclude an infrastructure master plan? Thank you.
Thank you, facilitator. I think mine is 5 in 1 question. I'll try and cover that in a strategically so. So you are so right. The issue of capacity is a challenge, and it's not only a challenge in the municipalities only. It's a challenge broadly in the whole lot of government. And we have acknowledged that if we don't deal with that, we are not going to make any progress in terms of what we have already done as a country. And hence there was an undertaking that MISA get established. And the main purpose of MISA to be established was specifically to actually capacitate, or rather support municipalities with the issues, with the capacity around the issues of your infrastructure planning. So I also indicated that in the provinces, we do have MISA branches, and we have expertise from your planning perspective. We also have engineers who can make themselves available to support the municipalities. And also we have at a national level, like the unit that I'm working with, that can actually work with municipality to look into some of the models that are available to ensure that at the end of the day, I mean, you know, we may be municipalities, but in the main, there are a lot of differences between the municipalities, in a sense that an option that can work for A municipality cannot work for B municipalities because of those differences and disparities that are there. So those units, or that unit, is specifically there to actually support the municipalities. One last thing which I want to also indicate is that it's one thing to create a support at national level. It's another thing if there is that willingness down there to receive that kind of a support. So at certain point, we find that you may be having a support, but if the municipality is not willing to receive the support that you are bringing, then it may not make any impact. And that is one area that, in my experience, we have already picked up that, you know, sometimes we are forcing these people to say, do this, but these people are not willing to listen, you know, they feel like you are imposing. So it's one element that when we are looking at the issue of capacity, we need to think outside the box and say, are we ready enough to receive that capacity support that is coming from the national government? And in concluding around the financing and the capacity is that, you know, it's not business as usual. We have to do things differently. We have to think outside the box. You are talking about the grants. We have to be flexible enough to say, what are the things that can work out best for us? He was talking about the SLP. One of the municipalities, we were saying to them, fine, if you don't have your other own revenue, why don't we use that portion of the SLP to say use that as a blended kind of a financing to ensure that you can unlock a larger amount of money so that you can have a development of infrastructure. But then we need to think outside the box. Thank you, facilitator.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Municipalities, MISA is available, and MISA is saying approach their offices and discuss the challenges, and then we can be able to see how we can find solutions together. It is a resource that government has put together, and it's a paid resource. It is free to you. Let's make use of it. Dr. Nkangala, as we move towards wrapping, it's important, as you've heard, there are very nice things that are coming from the panel. And all of these things that are coming from the panel, they need a nice way of knitting them together so that they can be a cohesive force that would improve impact. And this then brings in the issue of strategic planning. And in relation to this, I just want to pick one battle. We have a challenge. The second thing, if you go to the mirror as a state that we can confess about, you're going to see again the blind spot of silo planning and its challenges with regards to wastages or leakages of limited resources. So in a period of this nature where we need to plan for a crisis, we have to be very vigilant about closing the leakages. What has been your experience with the impact of the district development model as a new momentum? I'm not going to call it policy, it's not policy, as a new momentum to energize state towards better coordination and better cooperation, particularly inside the state and between the state and traditional leaders in the context of Mpumalanga for housing. And earlier, CSIR mentioned the importance of evidence-based planning and decision-making. In our integrated development plans, what has been your experience with regards to improving the quality in those plans that would enable our council, once they've expressed through that plan, to have a force or a mechanism that would help them to guide our communities towards what we've defined as our vision during their term of office? Over to you.
Thank you, and I think I'm the speaker who must start by almost saying good evening, colleagues. Thanks, Chairperson. In terms of the experience we've been seeing from the DDM, I must say that as municipalities, Section 26 of the Local Government Systems Act introduces this idea of integrated planning, and it's one that to a certain extent we run out of energy of, because it's a huge fight. And it's a huge fight because it's only in local government where integrated planning is legislated. Unfortunately, we almost have everyone, sorry panelists, I'm not fighting with you. We almost have everyone I'm sitting with here, either than yourself, they are representing silos. And I say they're representing silos because they're representing certain departments. It's human settlements, it's agriculture, and so on and so on. Whereas for us, it is governmental, right across. And so we have a huge fight on our hands, and we have to integrate. So we definitely do need this DDM vehicle to energize the system, and we must energize the system through what we already have, which is our spatial development frameworks. They've been touched on, our integrated development planning and budgeting processes. But now coming back to the evidence-based planning and the lived experience that we have, at Ehlanzeni District Municipality, we have picked up that one of the greatest errors we have made from planning is that the IDP process, through the framework of the IDP, we're supposed to move from analysis to strategy to project identification and then to delivery. Unfortunately, our lived experience almost throughout the country and what we had picked up in Ehlanzeni is that we rush towards the IDP as one plan. So excuse the water bottle, but if this was the plan, we rush to that. And we've identified that it's key for us to produce an analysis report, next to it a strategies report, next to it a project identification report, and that then assists us with evidence-based planning. It's a difficult fight, Chairperson, and it's difficult because we have to not only integrate with external stakeholders, but also within the institution, we also have to integrate. And it's very much challenging in some cases, and if you pick up the organizational structures of any municipalities, you will often find, and Nkangala is lucky to a certain extent, they have LED and planning sitting as one department. At Ehlanzeni, LED and planning are two different departments. So you can already see the challenge that's coming. And that applies to as far as going as the technical infrastructure. It's another department standing on its own. And now if you come to Wompit, we have at Ehlanzeni who's an engineer, and you're coming from planning and you're trying to make them sit down. We already have that fight internally, and then we also have to take that same fight externally and bring Umam Zuma with our colleagues from Rural Development National and so on. But it's one fight that we must continually fight and be proud of. This is the struggle that has been waged or that has been given to us, and we must embrace. I must say that colleagues around the table and councillors especially, we must note that it is a difficult struggle. The human mind just wants to focus on one thing. I was given a task to take this water from point A to point B. But suddenly you have something like 26 national departments, you've got 10 departments in the province, you've got external stakeholders of government, and that's very much difficult. One though which we must embrace. So that's a major challenge that we face, and at Ehlanzeni we have come up with the integration model, because as much as we've got integrated development planning, it's important for us to come up with a model to then say, how then are you going to integrate? And for us producing an analysis report, we're coming to the end of the IDP phase in terms of community consultations now. We are expecting that all of our IGR structures and our awards and our stakeholders are going to give us an analysis report. That then goes to the strategies phase, and we must produce a report once more. So we're saying that we don't want to be passive and just stand back and say, I'll take a shot at the previous panel's chairperson who said, we're now sitting together, fix it. You know, it's much more complex than that. We literally have to produce the goods, the tools. My colleague Dave spoke of a tool on assessing high quality land potential, strategic land. And so we have to do that, have those tools in place, put them into implementation, and then deliver on the product. And then hopefully we will come to the delivering of quality plans. But I must say, Chairperson, as a planner and as a town planner, I disagree, and I don't think that we have a planning problem. And let me qualify that statement by saying that at national government, we have a spatial development framework. In Mpumalanga, we have a provincial spatial development framework. I know that all 3 districts in this province have got their frameworks. All local municipalities in this province have got frameworks. Yes, we can argue the quality, but they're there. We also have IDP, so we really don't have a planning problem. It's now getting to that implementation, which is very much challenging and goes back to where I've started, that integration is hard. And we must embrace the space as municipalities, fight for the space, and be able to use all resources at our disposal to pull the stakeholders and really deliver at the end of the day. And finally, with that, I think one tool that has come to us is one that now says, let's look at outcomes-based planning, because essentially what we have been doing when we deliver from all of our plans, we have been satisfied to say we've bought the land, which is just the output. We have now done the township establishment, which is just the output. And then you have to proclaim, and then you have to title the land, and then you have to open the township register. But if we now shift, and Circular 88 of Cocktails assisting us with that, to go to outcomes-based planning that says, no, don't tell me that you bought the land. Tell me how many houses have you now developed and how many people are now residing in a certain settlement and how much tax revenue you are now deriving. So those shifts are definitely going to assist us. And with that, I thank you, Chairperson.
To my panel, let me take this opportunity to appreciate your contributions, and also perhaps for us as the municipality, maybe we are incrementally as well learning our lessons. I think it is obvious that a conversation of this nature requires more time than we have today, but this is not the last time that we'd have these types of conversations. We would be able then, outside of this, to start taking up what is emerging from the inputs you were making through different programs that will enable us to have different platforms of engagement and further cooperation with what you've raised. Unfortunately, because of time, What we will do is we will now ask the program director to please take over the session towards concluding. I assume that program director, we would be able then to get the record of what is coming out of here in the near future, so that we can be able to explore the follow-ups on the things that are coming. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'm now taking back the reins to the Honorable Speaker, but just to also remark that due to time constraints, as this event is only for one day, and when some people realize that they may not be sleeping over, they want to drive back where they come from. So we apologize for that. But the MEC requested during the briefing to say there must be another meeting of planners where the technicians, they call themselves technocrats. Yes. The technocrats must have another session using the DDM to also drill down some of these issues. So I'm taking back the reins to the Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for all the presenters. Without any waste of time, in the morning we have reported to the MEC that we are working closely with our revered traditional leadership. We want to give them an opportunity to make their observation, whether they want to complain, appreciate, make additions and subtractions. The person who will be speaking on behalf of the traditional leadership will be introduced by Mama Umahlobohwane. Mama Umahlobohwane ngasondela uyamazi uSpeaker uthanda kabi wena uyafuna nje ukukunikeza iplatform nala kunganasidingo khona. Indaba yakho noSpeaker yaziwa zwelonke. Uyafuna nje uhlala Labezitha akunayo inkomo.
Good afternoon. Njengo-Speaker sekashilo igama lami Alice Mahlobohwane. Ngizela phambili ukuzobiza inkosi yami ukuthi ize ngaphambili idzinyane lakasenza ngakhona ungu-chairperson wendlu yamakhosi eNkangala Local House unkosi u-SS Mahlanga Ndabezitha.
Speaker.
Bayete Ngonyama, Program Director, our Honorable Speaker, thanks for the opportunity. Firstly, let me take this opportunity to greet our kings who are not with us today, but we know ukuthi banathi ngokomoya. I will tell you why I'm doing a special greetings to our king, Mr. Dave Moffat. Let me take this opportunity to greet His Majesty King Makosonke II and he, in his absentia, sithi bayethe ngwenyama, bayethe ngwenyama. And again, take this opportunity to greet His Majesty Ithole likaMayicha, His Majesty King Maboko III. Bayethe ngwenyama. They have sent their representatives to be with us today. So we need to honor that. We need to respect that. And siyathokoza banana bekosi ukuthi niphumelele namhlanje ukuthi ngwenyama nayo inithuma konizeni. Ngidlule ngilochise abondaba ezitha ikosi yakwaPunguche, ikosi yakwafene, ikosi yakwachane. Ngithi bayethe indaba ezitha. As well as not forgetting our acting executive mayor and other executive mayors from local municipalities, speakers who are present today, members of the mayoral committee of the district as well as local municipalities, all officials present here today, I greet you all. Speaker, let me take this opportunity just to give a brief background of what has actually has transpired lately. Nginomntwana womntazana bondaba ezithani. She's very inquisitive. One day I was from a meeting. I came back home very late. It was around 9:30. Then I decided to switch on to CNN. During that time, they were, showing the highlights of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth funeral proceedings. So she asked me, "Ukuthi mara, Daddy or Baba, is Queen Elizabeth the queen of the whole world now?" Ngithi, she's not. She's the Queen of England. We've got our own queens. Then, okay. After a couple of minutes, she asked me again. She asked me then, if she's only the Queen of England, then why our president is there and I saw some other president from other countries, they are there? Hey. Then I said, no, Nana, she's the head of state. I said, okay, head of state, what's that? She's running the government and the monarch. He said, okay. Then he said, okay. Then you said we've got kings and queens. Then why are they not running the government? Why? It's a difficult question. Then I had to explain. Then after explaining, she said, okay. Then that means King Misizulu is the king of South Africa. And we've got Laikai, we've got King Maboko, of which you know him. And he's your uncle. Then we've got King Makosonke. He's staying not far from us. He said, okay. Oh, I forgot the name. He said, Then said, okay, why I don't see them on TV? Yeah, no. I had to do a lot of explanation. But, I realized with South Africans, there's something that we are not doing right when coming to the institution of traditional leadership. There's something that we are not doing right. That was my take after getting a lot of questions. So hence, I'm saying, Babu Mufet, in Nkangala we've got kings, we've got 2 kings. And we are privileged as in Nkangala region. Those kings are residing in the Nkangala region. You know, gatherings like this, we need to praise them. We need to acknowledge them. They are our kings. Ngiyathokoza bese nethi ngifahlela kancane ni. Program director, let me take this opportunity again to express our gratitude being invited to this August to this August occasion. This is a very informative session, speaker. We are actually delighted that today we have learned a lot. There's a lot that we have learned as a traditional institution. We have a lot that we have gained as a sector. Amakhosi speaker njengoba wazi babandu abathanda development. There's a proven record to that. If you look at the current settlement within within South Africa, most of the local municipalities, they are operating in the space of traditional leaders. And if you check or if you assess the way the human settlement has been done, it has been done proper. Those people were not learned by then, but they managed to do proper town management and proper town planning. I think Mr. Dave Moffat, you have experienced that. You have gone to Tweefontein. The stands are equal. The streets are straight. It's a wisdom that God has given them. So us being here, it's not a mistake. We are part of the development. And we are delighted when you talk about development. We are happy. That's what makes us happy. Because what you must, as a speaker, what you must understand, Ogoti, as the municipalities, the constituency that you are serving is the same constituency as ours. So we are compelled to work together. We are compelled to do programs together. Engingakuveza ke speaker, mhlambe ekubuye emakhosini, uchilo speaker andaba ezida wathi singa complainer, singa add sifuna ukuku-add, but ngibawa ngidlulise lokhu speaker amakhosi akubawileko. Engicabanga ukuthi mhlambe uspeaker, maybe it was an oversight on the part of the municipality. There's some issues that Amakosi wanted to raise, especially with the MEC. But in the briefing session, where they were expected, to be given an opportunity to interact with the MEC, they were not part of that briefing. I guess it was an oversight that needs to be rectified. This is a very important sector. 2, The MEC acting mayor, he talked about the development. One of the things that he mentioned, Mrs. Mahlangu, acting mayor, was that the planning it can be done, and it has been done before, and it's still continuing. But there's one problem when coming to the issue of human settlement, is the issue of bulk. Amakhosi kangiphathisileke mayor ukuthi there's one, it's just that it's a pity that the Department of Water Affairs is not here, but there's one element that we are forgetting. Ukuthi as much as we do this thing of doing a decent settlement for our people, but the service must always be provided. Amakhosi athi, if you look on our areas, we've got wetland areas. People who are invading the land, they are building on those areas. And those areas or those spots, they need to be preserved. I think I'm going to give you an assignment to all of you, those actually who don't know the importance of a wetland. Go into a research. Why is it important to reserve the wetlands? They are the feeder to our streams that are feeding our dams. The underground water, in most cases, seeps through to those wetlands. Then the wetlands feed the streams feed our rivers. Mayor, ngiyabawa ke, amakhosi ayabawa ukuthi keni iqalelele. I remember when uMayor was ubaba undaweni, he used to be very strict when coming to the preservance of wetlands. So ngiyabawa ke Babu Dave Mufet and your team, kindly review the protection of our wetlands. We need those wetlands. Secondly, Speaker, abondaba ezitha babawile ukuthi ngiveze ukuthi endaweni zabo kuma land invasion babonile ukuthi abanye abantu bakha labangakafanele bakhe khona. Kwesinye isikhathi it might be people don't have information or knowledge. Amakhosi ke abawa ke ukuthi ngama district, let's request water affairs to allow the district municipalities to have committees that will look on our catchment areas. Our catchment areas, people are building on our catchment areas, especially the ones that are invading land. Ayabawa ukuthi amakhosi abomasipala balibawe permission leyo ukuthi i-water affairs invumele ukuthi nibe nama committees that will look on our catchment areas. Now uqalako for instance, mhlambe uyethembisile. Look at indawo ebizwa ukuthi Kings Park. I don't think that stream is going to get water. The water is going to be diverted somewhere. And the stream that was there, it's a stream that is feeding emthambotini. Awuke apha amanzi lawo, they are going to be blocked somewhere, abe waste. So can you kindly mhlambe have a discussion as the municipality and see how best can we also protect, or how can we best establish, our catchment areas that will be a feeder to our streams. Amanzi siyawafuna. Mara naswa blocker, then we are going to have a challenge. Speaker, ngizwile kukhulunywa about the state land, and the state land is a trust land. If I can just go back a little bit. Most of the traditional leaders, where they are residing now, some of the land, they have bought that land from the apartheid government. Bakhuphe inkomo bayokuthenga leyo narha, bathengela isizwe sabo ngoba basithanda. So siyabawa ke Mayor ukuthi when we talk about land, that must be taken into cognizance. Ukuthi actually some of the land was bought by Abondabezitha, but unfortunately by then, issuing of title deeds, it was not favorable. A title deed was issued, to a council that is aligned to the regime by then. But those Amakosi who bought the land and refused to be exploited by the system, they don't have title deeds. But they've got an oral evidence that land was bought by them. So siyabawa ke Speaker ukuthi inarha enjalo amakhosi ayabawa ukuthi akuhlale phasi ke kufunisiswe, because the problem ekhona ukuthi there's this name of a private land that is always mentioned, that must not be touched. Even the people who are in higher authorities, they don't want to talk about that private land. They talk about that 13% that is owned by Amakosi. And Amakosi, that is frustrating them. Ukuthi nabo, there's an evidence. Actually, there's a portion, actually they are indawo yabo bayithenga. Program director, Abondabezitha abangiphathise khona ukhunye. Last year, 2021, there was a land summit at Beachwood Hotel. The land summit was addressed by the Honorable Deputy President. And in that land summit, resolutions were taken And also, if not mistaken, there was also a summit. There was a summit somewhere. But the resolution that were taken in that summit, actually one of the resolutions that was taken is that is Pluma must be suspended. I remember Obabu Mufet was part of that meeting at Beachwood Hotel last year. Or is it last year or last year, yeah. Is it this year? Oh, this year. Yeah, this year. Yeah, this year. Sorry, this year. Yeah, was part of that meeting. Amakosi raised that there are some clauses that are not favorable to their communities and not favorable to the current situation ekhona ekhaya. And to that effect, there was an inputs that were forwarded to the Department of Rural Development and Land Administration in terms of the suspension of that Spluma. Actually, it's a lot of clauses. Most of the clauses that are there, they are not favorable to Amakosi. So Amakosi requested that I must emphasize the resolution that was taken in that meeting for the suspension of Spluma is a Jamile speaker. A further engagement, the Deputy President promised that he will do a further engagement Namakosi as well as the minister pertaining to the suspension of this act. But the resolution was taken that it must be suspended. Speaker, siyabawa ke ukuthi nase kwenziwa mhlambe ama-development endaweni zamakhosi, siyabawa ukuthi ngokukhulu ukuzithoba i-consultation ayithome emakhosini, amakhosi akhulunyiswe, aziswe ukuthi kuzokwenzakalani, bakhona ukuba nelwazi, bakhona nabo ukuba ne-input. We also appreciate the initiative that was taken by your district of engaging Amakosi about this special development framework. The consultation was done at Dr. Jess Moroka as well as Tembisile. But in those meetings, there was a special request that was forwarded to the conveners of that meeting. Ukuthi sibawa bavakatshele each traditional council. Why they've made that request? We've got different traditional councils that have plans, that have some of the traditional councils, they've got plans that have executed in terms of the development of their areas. So, siyabawa speaker, ukuthi iteam eyayikhona ayenze ukuthi iyawavakatshela imbuso sichabane ukuthola ukuthi ngikuphi abakuphetheko ne. Lokho kuzosihelebha ne. Singakhohlwa bavakatshele nengonyama ne. Nazo ngoba zinebhudango ezinalo ne. Okugcina speaker engiba ukudlulisa mhlambe ngiyacabanga ukuthi le mhlambe ngizabe ngiyapolitika, but I'm putting it to your office, speaker. You know, we've got actually ngiyathokoza ukuthi bakhona, we've got bank institutions the mining sectors that are operating within the district. And some of the mines, when coming to social labor plans implementation, they always deviate. As a district, we have just realized with some of the commitments, they are not fulfilled as promised. So, siyabawa somlomo ukuthi njengoba uMEC ngizwe udirector lapha ukuthi uMEC ubabizile, ngiyabawa ukuthi your office, actually the district, ntelingachiwa ngaphandle, as well as the house of the Nkangala local house of traditional leaders, they must be part of that. Sizokhona ukuzwisisa ni. Because if you look, some of the mines singahlala khona le kude le kubosiyabuswa, but we are still falling within their radius. So siyabawa ke ukuthi nathi nisimeme sibe part yalowo mhlangano. The banking sector, speaker, namanye nje ama-business, ngicabanga ukuthi mina as a district I can't spend no more money. They've got their social labor plans. Propose our speaker ukuthi let's look out of 100% of the money that they are making good district. Can't we deduce or come up with a formula, deduce a percentage that qualifies our district, and channel that money to our challenges? Yes, I know it's not an easy task, but it's doable. Because now ngakhe ngabona enye bank ithengela abogogo ingubo, zibahelebha ngana abogogo ingubo, azibahelebhe nganext. With that percentage, we can take our learners to school. We can take our learners to universities. Babuye bazo qualify, babe ma mining engineers, babe ma electrical engineers. Bakhona ukukhulisa umnotho walapha ekhaya. So ngiyabawa, let's try and do that exercise. I know it's not an easy exercise, but it's doable. Let's try and do it. Ongekwetu kwalapha district asikubawe kuzosihelebha. Ngiyathokoza speaker ngethuba osiphe lona. Siyathokoza njengoba sithilo ukuthi usimeme emhlanganweni ocakatheke kangakani. Siyabawa ke ukuthi njengoba sesivezile kuma consultation processes abakhona, let us not be left out. Let us always be considered. Let us be part of the engagement. Let us be part of the decision makers. We don't want to be spectators. So ngiyathemba ukuthi speaker utsho kanenge wathi uyaberekisana namakhosi, and I'm definitely sure that you won't disappoint us. You will stick to your words. Ngalawo magama ngiyathokoza.
Thank you very much, Dabezita. Sikuzwile. Office lika executive mayor nelaka speaker no acting municipal manager. Mhlambe within a reasonable period of time. Ngiyazi uMEC ubusy ngalento zabo ze national conference for December. But kungaba kuhle ukuthi before ayale sibuye nje sibe nomhlangano omncane namakhosi. Umhlangano loyo uSpeaker uzowujabulela ukuthi kube nawo bonke abo speaker, nabo bonke abo executive mayor, nabo bonke abo chief whip, nabo bonke abo municipal manager. Ngiyacabanga sezwana ninensebenza ofisini lika speaker, lika executive mayor, acting municipal manager. Sizobawa nje ukuthi before December 16 ube sowuhleli lo mhlangano loyo siboneni ukuthi lokho kungathi kusalela ngaphandle ngeke sikhone na ukuthi sikulungiseni sinabo ndaba ezitha. Without any waste of time, we will request ubuntate emakhwithini yawozohlala la duzane no speaker. Without any waste of time, we will request the acting executive mayor umama uDP Mahlangu abuya azosenzela ama closing remarks. Honorable MMC Mahlangu.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Speaker. Greetings once more to the Honorable MEC of Human Settlement in Mpumalanga Province, the Honorable Speaker of Nkangala, and Honorable Speakers from local municipalities, the Acting Chief Whip, Umetaini Mtimuye, the Executive Mayors of all local municipalities that are present here, members of the Mayoral Committee, Honorable Councillors, our traditional leaders, experts from various institutions, CSIR, University of Witwatersrand, MISA, City of Johannesburg, officials from different spheres of government, the private sector, panelists and moderators, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Honorable Speaker, we must start by apologizing to the traditional leadership with the concern that they have raised of not inviting them to the briefing this morning. It was an oversight, Dabezita, City Chebe, Nkangala District Municipality. We are very much happy, Honorable Speaker, that members that are present here, they have actually agreed to be with us in this Nkangala Human Settlement Summit. This represents an important step in creating an environment where the district will be able to create real integrated human settlement. Nkangala district has 1.5 million people spread across the different local municipalities. These local municipalities are Dr. J.S. Moroka local municipality, Yotembisi Lehani, Victor Kanye, Emalahleni, Steve Chwete, and Emakazeni local municipality. As a district, we have realized that municipalities that are experiencing high levels of growth are Steve Chwete and Emalahleni because of the mining developments as well as coal power stations in those areas. Honorable Speaker, we want to acknowledge that we do have collaboration with our traditional leaders. It is important to mention that the role of traditional leaders is of utmost importance if we are to achieve integrated human settlements in the rural areas. We need to assist our traditional leaders with planning and financing of projects in traditional areas, as well as having mega projects in our rural areas. What is very critical is that no development should take place in rural areas without the consent and support by traditional leaders. We as well want to acknowledge the concern that has been raised, Honorable Speaker, of our squatters that we are having in our rural municipalities, particularly in the area of Dr. J.S. Mroka. It is a concern where we had a meeting with Ubaba Kosi Chane, where we were having a disaster in Nkangala district. Through our intervention, we find the majority of people, they have squatted on the wetlands as well as on the catchment areas the visitor was talking about. We've requested Dr. J.S. Mroka Troika to assist us in intervening in those challenges that have been raised as a matter of agency, because we don't know as to whether next time when more disasters come, what is it that will happen. We have noted those concerned the visitor, and we are willing as Nkangala district to make sure that we address those challenges. As we plan for human settlements, we are acknowledging that there are various challenges such as inadequate planning system in local municipalities to ensure that we have long-term plans for integrated human settlements. This means we must improve the planning capacity of municipalities in town planning and technical services. There are challenges related to bulk infrastructure, where in certain areas in the district there are inadequate water sources. Accessing funding to unlock this challenge is very important. We also call for the fast tracking of land release, more especially where land is owned by national government, so that municipalities can develop the land. Informal challenges in the district remains a challenge where close to 50,000 households live in informal settlements. This means dedicated program of upgrading informal settlements, however linking that with infrastructure provision. As a presentation were made before us in the summit, Honorable Speaker, the Nkuna City, when they were making a presentation, we realized that there is a clear distinction between urban areas as well as rural areas. One of the models, as indicated by Collins Chabani, municipalities, that we can develop our rural areas in such a manner that they become attractive as areas for working, residential areas, business areas, so that people should not move from their rural areas. Equally, there's a need to have mixed income, housing and mixed use development in urban areas. Through our SDF, Honorable Speaker, the district is currently working with Development Bank of South Africa for development of spatial development framework with a budget of 4 million rand. This will assist in the planning process of the district, especially identification of areas where human settlements will be located. We must take this opportunity to appreciate the contribution that has been made by our Honorable MEC, Honorable Speaker, to service stands or sites in Dr. J.S. Mroka local municipality. We further want to appreciate the efforts to undertake township development process as well as upgrading of informal settlements in Emalahleni local municipality. As we want to fast track development application processes, Honorable Speaker, the development of application process by local municipalities should be faster and less restrictive so that investors and developers can be able to get their approvals on time. There are instances where it takes more than 5 years for an approval which should have taken 24 months. There is a need for us to partner with private sector in the space for integrated human settlement development. This refers to state finance institutions, including the banks. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, as we acknowledge that we did not have all time, as this was a one-day session for the Human Settlement Summit, it is still expected that the district municipality will utilize the district development model to further enhance these ideas as shared during the summit. Follow-up should be undertaken to ensure that we encourage urban and rural development at the same time and pace. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa indicates that government has the responsibility to ensure that everyone has access to adequate housing, and that the state must use its available resources to ensure that this is realized. As the district, we should endeavor to deliver on that promise. Honorable Speaker, I want to take this opportunity and thank all participants that have participated in this summit to make sure that as Nkangala district, we achieve our goal. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Acting Executive Mayor. We've got two announcements. We have lost one of this small mic. If you might have taken it by mistake, those of us who are using it, or it has been found. Oh, they are saying I must show as to how it looks like. We lost it. If you might have seen it, please bring it over here. Thank you very much. The second announcement is that before we go out, there's tea, coffee, and juice there. We will request the Honorable MMC Makwiting to come and do a vote of thanks for us. And after he has spoken, nobody will come and speak. It will be the closure of our event. From my side, thank you very much. You have been a very wonderful audience.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My name is James Makwiting, MMC for Infrastructure in Nkangala District. So allow me, Speaker, to pass my greetings to the Acting Executive Mayor Walaikaya and the Executive Mayors of local municipalities and the troikas of all the municipalities, and allow me also to pass the greetings to Abondabezita, laba khona bonke la ngithi bayede Abondabezita. Yeah, and allow me, Honorable Speaker, to say all protocol observed because of time. Now I will start to thank yourself, Honorable Speaker, for facilitating the program so well up to so far. And let me also thank the Executive Mayor of Steve Tshwete for welcoming us in this summit. And also thanks Councillor Nintwe Matlangu, which is a MMC for Local Economic Development, for introduction of political guests. And also Provincial Coctor, Mr. Mbele, for introduction of Amakosi, and also acting acting municipal manager, or Mr. Majila, for introduction of panel members and moderators. And also allow me to also thank the acting executive mayor for giving the introduction for our keynote speaker, who is the MEC, and also thank the MEC for giving us and blessing the summit. I will also want to thank the Nkangala district manager, which is from Planning and Economic Development, JP Manganye, for setting the tone and flagship program in Nkangala district for this summit. And also I want to thank Dr. M. Napir from CSIR, who is a principal researcher. Allow me also to thank Ms. T. Damene, and who is assistant director for the housing, for the past for giving us the past experience on human settlement development, South Africa Hills and other developments. And also MCB, Ms. B. Zuma, for giving us the status of integrated human settlement housing delivery and title deed from the Department of Human Settlement. And also thank Mr. O. Selue from Department of Human Settlement, who is a Deputy Director for Land Acquisition and Tenure Services. Allow me also to thank Ms. J. Ngosi, who also give us the grant on bulk infrastructure for human settlement, who is the Municipal Infrastructure Support Agent Chief Director. And also, we'd like to thank Mr. Shimange from Collins Chabano Local Municipality, the Manager for Special Planning, who gave us the background around the issue of Nkuna City project and other integrated human settlement from this municipality. And I would also like to thank the principal researcher, Dr. Mark Napir from CSIR, Mr. Tim Mnisi, the Director for Rental and Housing Property, and is from the Department of Human Settlement, and also Mr. R. Nzanana, which is a Director Engineering Services and Quality Assurance. Allow me also to thank Prof. Mari from the University of Witwatersrand, who is a professor from School of Architecture and Planning. And also thank Mr. D. Mofete from Mofet. My apology in that regard. Who is a Director for Spatial Planning and Land Use Management Services. And Mr. L. Mayaba from the NGO Plan Act, who is a cluster from the cluster coordinators, and also N.W. Mashiru from COCTA, Assistant Director Traditional Land and Administration. S.I. Makabela from COCTA, Assistant Director Rural Development Facilitation. Max Digok, Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, Director Property Holdings. Allow me also to thank the moderator B.S. Mtakane, who's a researcher from Entlanzing District Municipality. And I'll also thank the panel members from Netbank, B. Mibuyo, which is head of affordable housing. I'm not good in terms of pronunciation. You'll pardon me if I pronounce your surname. T. Mutang from the First National Bank, who is a regional manager for residential development. And also Ms. J. Nkosi from the Municipal Infrastructure Support Agent, Chief Director for Infrastructure. Professor Mari from VETS, who's a professor, School of Architecture and Planning. And I would like also to thank the chairperson of MPEG, she was with us in this summit, and also thank the chairperson of Traditional Leaders for representing Amakosi and make the input in this summit and submission to the Office of the Executive Mayor and the Speaker. So with those acknowledgement, I would like to thank everybody for your commitment in making sure that you bless this summit and you attend up until the summit comes to an end. Thank you very much. We thank you as the district.